In this video, we're going to go through on how to solve a fraction problem sums using branching concept. Here is an example of a remainder concept problem sum question. Brandon used 3/7 of his money to buy a new phone and then spent 3/4 of the remainder on a tablet. He had $20 left. How much money did Brandon have at first? We're going to use branching method. On how to use the branching method, you will need to write down, for example, in this question, money, because it represents the total money. In the first part of the question, it says Brandon used 3/7 of his money to buy a new phone. We're going to draw a little branch and add the fraction 3/7, and we're going to add in the word food in brackets so we know what 3/7 means. The second is that we will branch out to another word, which is the remainder. The thing is that we don't know what fraction it is. Can you guess? If you guess the remainder is 4/7, you're right, so therefore we just write 4/7 for the remainder. The next part of the question says that Brandon has spent 3/4 of the remainder on a tablet, so that's why we added a branch to the tablet itself. Then the next part of the question says that he had left $20, so we create another branch, but this time we don't know the fraction. Can you guess what fraction that represents $20? If you guess 1/4, you're right. So we're going to write 1/4 as our branch to represent the $20 that is left. Lastly, how much money did Brandon have at first? Before going through the next step, I want to explain to you the concept of fraction. I have a simple example. Imagine you have 10 marbles and then you give 4 out of the 10 marbles to Bob, and then you have a remainder of 6 marbles out of 10. Then you give 2 out of the 6 marbles from the remainder to Alice. The question is, what fraction of the total marbles did Alice receive? If you answer 2 out of 6, then you are absolutely wrong. The thing is that if you answer 2 out of 10, then you are right. In order for us to get 2 out of 10, we actually multiply Alice's fraction, which is 2 out of 6, with the remainder 6 out of 10, and this gives us 2 out of 10. Since 2 represents the number of marbles Alice has, then 10 represents the total marbles that we initially got. This is what fraction is, and we're going to use it in our this remainder concept and question. So now you have a sense of fraction. Let's go back to the question. Now I'm going to ask you a question. What fraction of the total money represents $20? If you answered 1 out of 4, you are absolutely wrong. The answer is, if you were to multiply what is left, which is 1 out of 4, and the remainder, which is 4 out of 7, that means you will have 1 out of 7, which represents $20 out of the total money. Since what is left is 1 out of 7 of the total money, that means 1 out of 7 of the total money is equal to $20. And then the total money, or 7 out of 7, is $140. That means Brandon had $140 at first, which is the correct answer. Let's try another question. Naomi spent 3/7 of her money on toys and spent 1/3 of what was left on books. She had $40 remaining. How much money did Naomi have at first? Pause this video and try branching yourself. So first, we're going to write the word money because the question is asking for how much money. Second, in the first part of the question, it says Naomi spent 3 out of 7 of her money on toys, so we're going to branch out and say 3 out of 7 toys. Then after that, we are branching out to what is left. We are using the word left because in the question, it says that we have spent 1 out of 3 of what was left on books. Can you guess how much is left in terms of fractions? If you say 4 out of 7, you are right. So once we have added the fraction to represent what is left, the next thing is we want to branch out according to the second part of the question, which says Naomi spent 1 out of 3 of what was left on books. So we're going to go branch out and write 1/3 books. Then lastly, we want to branch out to represent the $40 that is remaining. Can you guess what is the fraction to represent the remaining? If you said 2/3, you're right. So once we have added the remaining fraction, the next thing is, what fraction of the total money represents $40? If you answer 2 out of 3, you are absolutely wrong. If you answer 8 out of 21, you are absolutely right. So how we get 8 out of 21 is having 4 out of 7 times 2 out of 3, which gives us 8 out of 21. Since the remaining is 8 out of 21, that means 8 out of 21 of the total money is equal to $40. So let's get 1 out of 21 of the total money, which is $5. To get the total money, which is 21 out of 21, we then multiply 5 with 21, which gives us $105. And that is how much Naomi had at first.